February 24th devotional, 1 Peter 3:9. Do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult. On the contrary, repay evil with blessing, because to this you are called, so that you may inherit a blessing. Hey everybody, welcome to my channel, Susan Diamond Paints. This is Susan. So I'm talking with you again. I talked with you on the last video, so I figured I'll finish up what I wanted to say on this video for Friday. And then, we'll get through the weekend, and here we go. So, I'm obviously finishing this chat up from the previous chat that I just had with you, but I'm gonna break it up into two videos. But anyway, back on the hope you're enjoying the book. So, as you can probably tell, it has been a very long while since I've actually read out loud. I'd always been told that I had a good voice for reading out loud, although I have trouble pronouncing some of the really big words. I can say them somewhat decently in my head. It doesn't come out that way in the reading part, or the narrating part for you. So just give me a little bit of time on that, especially if I keep up with this, with reading the public domain books to you. So I hope you enjoy listening to that. Well, I'm pretty sure where you're not really watching me do anything, while you're actually working on your own work in progress. So, so at least I hope you are enjoying that. I'll continue to do that because, I don't have a crap ton of things to tell you. I only was telling you about the Art Dot storage system, but what I was thinking, with that 140, even though it's in its own one individual styrofoam foamy case part, I could take my two 60 bottle cases, so that would be 120 bottles, and put them side by side and use the same idea for my Justice League pictures. But what I wanted to tell you though is I have, because I like the boxes so much better, I've got Center Direct has the same Tic Tac boxes, but they're squarer and shorter, and they work with the same concept of you can squeeze it and that's how it opens up, or you just lift on it and it opens up. But because they're shorter and fatter, they're supposed to be able to hold 1,000 drills in its little container. I got a 30. It's a 32 storage, or 32 piece storage. I think I got like 4 of those, because I think that is what I'm really going to use for my Justice League one. I'm using these right here that are the 30 box ones. I got these from Amazon, so I'm still using these for my Ever Moments, and that's probably what I'll continue to do for the next custom that I'm going to be working, custom number 3. I'll be using probably the same boxes. And that's the other thing is, like, you come up with, like I said, I want to use the Art Dot storage stackable container boxes that they have for a permanent fix for keeping up with my spares, but I just don't have the space for it, because I would want to put it in my closet on my shelf, but that's where my diamond paintings sit. Gotta get through those to make the room, and so that's why I put myself on a no-buy for Diamond Art Club, unless they release another DC comic one. That's only for that. I don't know if they've ran their gauntlet for it or what, because I haven't seen any new ones been put out that are DC related ones, except for the last one for the holiday. I thought about getting that one though. It's got Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman on it, and then it has something like "Be the Hero for the Holiday" or some nonsense like that. Just take that whole part out and just fill it on in where all the red is anyway, and just have the 3 superheroes there. So I kind of been thinking about that, but I was like, I don't know, and I don't have the room. That's where I'm at right now. I don't have the room for the boxes. I don't have the room for the paintings, so I don't have room right now. So that's why I'm on a no-buy with them. Like I said, the last time I bought from them was Black Friday. Didn't get anything Cyber Monday. Monday I got it Black Friday. So Oh, we'll see. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I was thinking about, putting that to the side and have the bottles and come out. But because I got my boxes coming, I think the boxes is my route to go right now. For my little containers to be kitted out of or work out of. So that is what I'm going to use. Let's see. The reading, I tackled that. I'm trying to think. I thought there was something else I wanted to talk to you about, but I can't remember now. And then I was talking about what I was going to do with the storage of the big diamond, massive diamond art club Justice League one that I want to get on when I get done with these customs. I did think, and I'm still sure that I'm gonna have these customs that I'm gonna have to do. So the lady that I've done the customs for before, with her husband owned a business, and we had talked about this back and forth about doing pictures of the food, because he does wings, and he has all kinds of things, but picture of the wings, maybe a picture of the barbecue pork they have, a picture of the hamburger, hot dog, sandwich, what have you, and do food related diamond paintings for him. But I've been waiting on him to get the pictures to me so we can discuss, the price of that and everything, and that would be the next thing I'd work on after, of course, these got customs. It would be the next group of customs for me to do. So I gotta get with him on that, find out if that's something he still wants to do, and then just let him know that it's probably not gonna happen until after Easter. So if he just wants to mess around with it and decide which pictures he wants to use as for food items, we'll go with that and see what happens. So yeah. So I have the idea that I probably will have more customs after this, and then I will be able to get on the Justice League, although if and when I get finished with the mystery painting, so if I use mystery for April instead of March, and then do whatever I'm going to do, I'll hopefully be done in April with the custom. Maybe in May pick the mystery back up. So I don't know. We'll see. You want to still obviously work on it, so that you guys will have it. So I think on this one, yeah, I'm gonna stop the chatting now, and I'll put the chapter. Let's see, chapter 7 is where I'm at on the Blue Castle, so I'll put chapter 7 with this video for Friday, so you'll have a little chat with you, and then of course you'll have another chapter of the book. And like I said, if you are enjoying the book, just let me know. If y'all think it sucks, just let me know that too, whatever. But yeah, just let me know. Leave me a little comment. Give me a thumbs up, whichever. But I will chat with y'all later. Bye. Chapter 7. There was a rose bush on the little Sterling lawn growing beside the gate. It was called Doss's rose bush. Cousin Georgiana had given it to Valency 5 years ago, and Valency had planted it joyfully. She loved roses, but of course the rose bush never bloomed. That was her luck. Valency did everything she could think of and took the advice of everybody in the clan, but still the rose bush would not bloom. It throve and grew luxuriantly with leafy leaf branches untouched by rust or spider, but not even a bud had ever appeared on it. Valency, looking at it 2 days after her birthday, was filled with a sudden, overwhelming hatred for it. The thing wouldn't bloom. Very well then, she would cut it down. She marched to the tool room in the barn for her garden knife, and she went to the rose bush viciously. A few minutes later, horrified, Mrs. Frederick came out to the veranda and beheld her daughter slashing insanely among the rose bush boughs. Half of them were strewn on the walk. The bush looked sadly dismantled. "Doss, what on earth are you doing? Have you gone crazy?" "No," Valency said. She meant to say it defiantly, but habit was too strong for her. She said it deprecatingly. "I just made up my mind to cut this bush down. It is no good. It never blooms, never will bloom." "That is no reason for destroying it," said Mrs. Frederick sternly. "It was a beautiful bush, and quite ornamental. You have made a sorry-looking thing of it." "Rose trees should bloom," said Valency a little obstinately. "Don't argue with me, Doss. Clear up that mess and leave the bush alone. I don't know what Georgiana will say when she sees how you've hacked it to pieces. Really, I'm surprised at you. and to do it without consulting me. The bush is mine, muttered Valancy. What's that? What did you say, Doss? I only said the bush was mine, repeated Valancy humbly. Mrs. Frederick turned without a word and marched back into the house. The mischief was done now. Valancy knew she had offended her mother deeply and would not be spoken to or noticed in any way for 2 or 3 days. Cousin Stickles would see to Valancy's bringing up, but Mrs. Frederick would preserve the stony silence of outraged majesty. Valancy sighed and put away her garden knife, hanging it precisely on its precise nail in the tool shop. She cleared away the several branches and swept up the leaves. Her lips twitched as she looked at the straggling bush. It was an odd resemblance to its shaken, scrawny donor, little cousin Georgiana herself. I certainly have made an awful-looking thing of it, thought Valancy, but she did not feel the repentant, only sorry she had offended her mother. Things would be so uncomfortable until she was forgiven. Mrs. Frederick was one of those women who could make their anger felt all over the house. Walls and doors were no protection from it. You better go uptown and get the mail, said Cousin Stickles when Valancy went in. I can't go. I feel all sort of peaky and pinky this morning. I want you to stop at the drugstore and give me a bottle of Redfern's Blood Bitters. There's nothing like Redfern's Bitters for building a body up. Cousin James said the purple pills are the best, but I know better. My poor dear husband took Redfern Bitters right up to the day he died. Don't want them to charge you more than 90 cents. I can get it for that at the port. And what have you been saying to your poor mother? Do you ever stop to think, Doss, that you can only have one mother? One is enough for me, thought Valencia dutifully as she went uptown. She got Cousin Stickles bottles of bitters and then went to the post office and asked for her mail at general delivery. Her mother did not have a box. They got too little mail to bother with it. Valencia did not expect any mail, except the Christian Times, which is the only paper they took. They hardly ever got any letters, but Valencia rather liked to stand in the office and watch Mr. Crow, the gray-bearded Santa Clausy old clerk, handing out letters to the lucky people who did get them. He did it with such a detached, impersonal, Jove-like air that as if it did not matter in the least to him what supernal joys or shattering horrors might be in those letters for the people to whom they were addressed. Letters had a fascination for Valancy, perhaps because she so seldom got any. In her blue castle, exciting epistles bound with silk and sealed with crimson were brought to her by pages in livery of golden blue, but in real life, her only letters were occasionally perfunctory notes from relatives or advertising circular. Consequently, she was immensely surprised when Mr. Carew, looking even more Jovian than usual, poked a letter out to her. Yes, it was addressed to her plainly in fierce black hand, Miss Valancy Sterling, Elm Street, Dilworth, and the postmark was Montreal. Valancy picked it up with a little quickening of her breath. Montreal? It must be from Dr. Trent. He had remembered her after all. Valancy met Uncle Benjamin coming in as she was going out, and was glad the letter was safely in her bag. What, said Uncle Benjamin, is the difference between a donkey and a postage stamp? I don't know. What, answered Valancy dutifully. One you lick with a stick, and the other you stick with a lick. Ha ha. Uncle Benjamin passed in, tremendously pleased with himself. Cousin Stickles pounced on the Times when Valancy got home, but it did not occur to her to ask if there were any letters. Mrs. Frederick would have asked it, but Mrs. Frederick's lips at present were sealed. Valancy was glad of this. If her mother had asked if there were any letters, Valancy would have to admit that there was. Then she would have had to let her mother and Cousin Stickles read the letter, and all would be discovered. Her heart acted strangely on the way upstairs, and she sat down by her window for a few minutes before opening her letter. She felt very guilty and deceitful. She had never before kept a letter secret from her mother. Every letter she had ever written or received had been read by Mrs. Frederick. That had never mattered. Valancy had never had anything to hide, but this did matter. She could not have anyone see this letter, but her fingers trembled with the consciousness of wickedness and infallible conduct as she opened it, trembled a little, too, perhaps for apprehension. She felt quite sure there was nothing seriously wrong with her heart, but one never knew. Dr. Trent's letter was like himself, blunt, abrupt, concise, wasting no words. Dr. Trent never beat the bush. Dear Miss Sterling, and then on the back of a page of black, positive writing. Valancy seemed to read it at a glance, then dropped it in her lap, her face ghost white. Dr. Trent told her that she had a very dangerous and fatal form of heart disease, angina pectoris, evident complicated with an aneurysm, whatever that was, and in the last stages. He said, without mincing matters, that nothing can be done for her. If she took great care of herself, she might live a year, but she might also die at any moment. Dr. Trent never troubled himself about euphemisms. She must be careful to avoid all excitement and all severe muscular efforts. She must eat and drink moderately. She must never run. She must go upstairs and uphill with great care. Any sudden jolt or shock might be fatal. She was to get the prescription he enclosed, filled, and carry it with her always, taking a dose whenever her attacks came on. And he was hers, truly H.B. Trent. But Lindsay sat for a long while by her window. Outside was a world drowned in the light of spring afternoon skies, entrancingly blue, winds perfumed and free, lovely soft blue hazes at the end of every street. Over at the railway station, a group of young girls was waiting for a train. She heard their gay laughter as they chattered and joked. The train roared in and roared out again. But none of these things had any reality. Nothing had any reality except for the fact that she had only another year to live. When she was tired of sitting at the window, she went over and lay down on her bed, staring at the cracked, discolored ceiling. The curious numbness that follows on a staggering blow possessed her. She did not feel anything except a boundless surprise and incredulity, behind which was the conviction that Dr. Trent knew his business and that she, Valency Sterling, who had never lived, was about to die. When the gong rang for supper, Valency got up, went downstairs mechanically from form of habit. She wondered that she had been let alone so long, but of course her mother would not pay any attention to her just now. Valency was thankful for this. She thought the quarrel over in the rose bush had been really silly, as Mrs. Frederick herself might have said, providential. She could not eat anything, but both Mrs. Frederick and Cousin Stickles thought this was because she was deservedly unhappy over her mother's attitude, and her lack of appetite was not commented on. But Lindsay forced herself to swallow a cup of tea and then sat and watched the others eat, with an odd feeling that years had passed since she had sat down with them at the dinner table. She found herself smiling inwardly to think what a commotion she would make herself if she chose. Let her merely tell them what was in Dr. Trent's letter, and there would be such a fuss made as if, Valency thought bitterly, they really cared two straws about her. Dr. Trent's housekeeper got word from him today, said Cousin Stickles, so suddenly that Valency jumped guiltily. Was there anything in thought waves? Mrs. Judd was talking to her uptown. They think his son will recover, but Dr. Trent wrote that if he did, he was going to take him abroad as soon as he was able to travel and would be back here for a year at least. That would not matter much to us, said Mrs. Frederick majestically. He is not our doctor. I would not, here she looked, or seemed to look accusingly right through Valency, have him to doctor a sick cat. May I go upstairs and lie down, said Valency faintly. I have a headache. What has given you a headache? Said Cousin Stickles, since Mrs. Frederick would not. The question had to be asked. Valency could not be allowed to have headaches without interference. You ain't in the habit of having headaches. I hope you're not taking the mumps. Here, try a spoonful of vinegar. Piffle, said Valency rudely, getting up from the table. She did not care just then if she was rude. She had to be so polite all her life. If it had been possible for Cousin Stickles to turn pale, she would have. As it was not, she turned yellower. Are you sure you aren't feverish, Doss? You sound like it. You go and get right into bed, said Cousin Stickles, thoroughly alarmed, and I'll come up and rub your forehead and the back of your neck with Redfern's liniment. Valencia reached the door, but she turned. I won't be rubbed with Redfern's liniment, she said. Cousin Stickles stared and gasped. What? What do you mean? I said I wouldn't be rubbed with Redfern's liniment. Hard, sticky stuff. And it has the vilest smell of any liniment I ever saw. It's no good. I want to be left alone, and that's all. Valencia went out, leaving Cousin Stickles aghast. She's feverish. She must be feverish, ejaculated Cousin Stickles. Mrs. Frederick went on eating her supper. It did not matter what Valencia was or was not feverish. Valencia had been guilty of impertinence to her.